Good morning. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk. We continue our look into the stadium showdown. Of course, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns and where their future home is. Is it somewhere in the downtown area, as Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb hopes it is, or is it in Brook Park, as the Cleveland Browns hope it is? The Browns have clearly spent a lot of time and money already into what could be a projected $3 billion complex. Not just a domed stadium, but some surrounding mixed-use facility, as you see there, whether it's residential, office space, retail, really almost a Crocker Park with a dome in the middle of it. Of course, this whole thing is going to need substantial push on all sides. That includes at the state level and where funding is going to come from. We've heard the Haslams are willing to put up half. So $1.5 billion of this project. Where's the rest going to come from? An interesting move in this whole saga is that that district that represents Brook Park, District 15 of the Ohio legislature, just got a new state representative. Running for office in November, winning election, was Chris Glassburn. He had spent 7 years on the North Olmsted City Council. Before that, the North Olmsted School Board. He wins election in November. The swearing in was January 6th of this year, so he's only been on the job about 2 months. We're going to welcome in Representative Glassburn for the first time. How are you, sir? Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
It certainly has to have been a whirlwind. The project had already been announced as you're running for this seat. So let me ask the first very basic question. You're the new state rep that would include a $3 billion dome. If it succeeds, where do you stand? Just first of all, where do you stand on the battle of keeping it in downtown or moving it to Brook Park?
Well, I will tell you that I represent both Brook Park and the city of Cleveland, as well as several other suburbs. We are still in the phase of developing what is the actual proposal. There's been a lot of changes. The Browns initially proposed a deal in which the state of Ohio would be using new revenues from the project for $600 million. The governor came within a completely different proposal a couple of weeks ago to use gambling revenues. We're still trying to figure out what exactly is the proposal that we're going to be saying yes or no to. But it's important for taxpayers to not be on the hook for this. And so we are focused on that issue and working through the details to make sure that this is as responsive to taxpayers as it can be, whether there is a project downtown or in Brook Park. I believe the Browns are very committed to Brook Park. And so if they're bound and determined to do this, I think that's where this will end up.
So it doesn't sound like you're going to commit one way or the other, that you want the Browns to be playing on the lakefront or Burke Lakefront Airport or whatever the city could put together at the last minute. You're not going to pick a side quite yet in this. Is that correct?
It's not a question of picking a side. It's we don't have anything to say yes or no to. It matters a great amount if we're talking about paying $1 billion of taxpayer funds to keep it downtown, or if we're saying we're going to put in $1 billion of taxpayer funds to move it out of downtown. The details on this do matter. And so there's a lot of wiggle as to where those details land. And part of the fight is to see what can be the best deal for taxpayers.
As you brought up, the governor sort of threw a curveball, to use a sports analogy here, a couple of weeks ago in the governor's biennium budget for 2026, 2027, sort of changed the way we tax sports gambling if it's approved in the state of Ohio. Currently, we tax these companies that have apps and advertise all over television. We tax them at a 20% rate. The governor wants to double that, and that new 20% would raise somewhere around $180 million a year. That would go into a pot that would help with stadiums all over the state. This isn't just about getting money for a potential Browns project. Where do you stand on this governor's proposal? Before there was a fund, I believe it had about $300 million in it. The governor has always committed to keeping major sports and major stadiums in the state of Ohio. He says it's a part of good living when you can attract businesses and residents, that you have professional sports in your state. Where do you stand on this governor's proposal of doubling the tax on sports gambling and letting that help pay for stadiums all over the state?
So again, we're at a situation of what you use those funds for and what the impacts of those funds. We don't have information on that yet. The state just last year increased the gambling tax from 10% of the profits of the gambling companies to 20%. We don't know the impact of that yet. We're trying to get data, see how much that changed the landscape for residents. So I'm not going to make a premature decision on that until I see what the impact of going from 10 to 20 was. In concept, is it an interesting proposal? Am I grateful that the governor brought his attention to this issue? Absolutely. But this is such a new thing. We don't have real data on that. And I'm not going to commit to a large increase of any taxes on voters without understanding the full impact of it.
Let's move to the Browns themselves. You've been in office just a short 2 months. Have you had any communications with the Haslam Sports Group, or the Cleveland Browns on this project? Have they approached you, or have you approached them at all in these first 2 months?
Of course. They have tried to communicate with legislators of both parties. And from all across the state, I have tried to be as involved with that as I can. The details of this, as I've reiterated quite a bit, do matter. And it's important that, again, whether Brook Park or Cleveland is the permanent home, the reality is the lease for this team expires in 2028. And so there's going to be a major change, a major move one way or the other. This doesn't just disappear. And so we need to find a solution that keeps the Browns in Cleveland or greater Cleveland for the next 30 years. And so I will work with anyone who wants to solve that problem.
Have you met with them in person, or has this been through email, through telephone communications?
I've had multiple meetings, both telephone and in person with the Browns staff. How
would you say those meetings have gone?
Again, it's been a lot of information gathering. The Browns have some experience with their staff of having worked through a project in Columbus. The Haslam Sports Group owns the Columbus Crew. They built a new stadium in Columbus. But this project is orders of magnitude larger and more complex. And so I don't want the city of Brook Park or the city of Cleveland not getting the full benefit of this project because somebody isn't aware of program for water improvements or isn't understanding how we can maximize borrowing to make this more cost efficient. So I'm working through the details with each of these and trying to bring that experience I have from my personal work to this project.
The one, and we're speaking with Representative Chris Glassburn. He's the new Ohio State Representative for the Ohio Legislature of District 15. He's a Democrat. He represents North Olmsted, Brook Park, into Brookland, and small portions of Cleveland. The one big question that we get here is, and you brought up 2028, something has to get done fairly soon, quickly, within a year. From what you've seen and knowing how long it takes to build a dome or wherever it is, what kind of a timeline do you think we're on here where a final decision needs to be made?
Oh, I firmly believe there will be a final decision made within the next 3 months before the legislature adjourns. Again, the goal is to keep the Browns in greater Cleveland, whether that's in the city of Cleveland or in Brook Park, and to have a long-term relationship that extends well into decades into the future.
Representative Glassburn, congratulations on your election. You're swearing in. I'm sure it's been a whirlwind. You've hit the ground running. and you have a lot going on for a new representative. We certainly appreciate the time, and we're going to be in touch in the next few weeks. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
All right, take care. It is going to be an eventful next few months, as you've heard and as we all understand. If you're going to build a project of this size, you need to get a shovel in the ground, no matter where it is or what it is. And so something has to get done fairly soon if we're going to beat that deadline of a 2028, the end of the season there, that the Browns have committed to staying into downtown. This is a part of our ongoing conversation and our look at what's happening with all things Cleveland Browns and the stadium. That's why we're calling it a stadium showdown. We have a special broadcast on Friday that we're starting. Every week we will look at every movement that we can find out, including like yesterday when we reported that we found out that the executives from the Ford Motor Company had recently made a trip down from Detroit to meet with the Browns in the city of Brook Park. Of course, they have the Ford Plant 1 that backs up right up to where this project would be. And as we heard from Brook Park Mayor Orcutt, the executives came out of Brook Park very impressed with the potential of having the Cleveland Browns as a neighbor. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be right here on our digital platforms. Our 11 o'clock news underway right now on CW43. Our noon news coming up on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on social media at Cleveland 19 News.
Alrighty, Representative Glassburn, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, I'm sure we'll be speaking in the future. I'm
happy to do so again. I will give you as much information as I can each time. And so it's a dynamic process.
It is. It is. Good luck to you, sir. We'll chat in the future.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.